Oh, hey there guys, it's just your TA Marwa coming in from UBNA, Union Bay Natural Area, found at UW, right here in your UW backyard. So get out your Plants of the Pacific Northwest book, also called Pojar. Let's get into it. On page 70 of your Pojar, you'll find Snowberry. So come and take a look. This is a snowberry plant, and as you can see here, it has opposite leaflet patterns. So one little branch is coming out on the right and one is coming off on the left, and they're right next to each other in the same line. And they have a lot of different shapes, these leaves. So let's see a good example. It's like these two look similar, but then if you were to look maybe more in this direction, this leaf is a little bit of a funkier shape. So you'll find that these aren't all the same shape. Also, if you look maybe at this one, it has a completely different shape as well. But they have this kind of dark green color to them, and you can see a dark outline around it. And actually in a couple months here they will be having some white berries. That's why they're called snowberries, the plant, because they're white like the snow. But these berries are poisonous, so don't even think about eating them because you might just be sorry. Here we got the Pacific Madrone, also known as Arbutus menziesii. You see this tree and it's just does not look like a normal evergreen here in Washington. Believe it or not, it is a broadleaf evergreen. It's got this dense reddish looking bark, really cool. And then the leaves actually have this leathery feel to them. They're super thick. You can almost hear that like ch-ch-ch-ch. The leather of the leaf. And then if we look actually at the flowers up here, they kind of form in these little catkin shapes, and they're white flowers, really cute, which are a bit characteristic of the heath family, or Ericaceae, which is the family that this tree is in. Just looking more kind of at the branch and the leaf, we got alternate leaf patterns, and they're about 15 centimeters long, and some of them are a bit shiny. You see them in the light, like that guy, that's that leathery feel again. And you actually find a lot of these guys in like lower middle elevations, so a lot of these on the coast coming out. Just once you start seeing them in this red bark, you really won't be able to unsee them. That is the Pacific Madrone for all of you guys. As we wade in to find the lovely bulrush or Tule. This plant can be found in ponds, as you can see here, and it's super important in terms of its uses ethnobotanically. As we can see, it kind of looks like a rush, but it's actually a sedge, and the leaves grow at the bottom of these like sprouts kind of coming out of the water. So we're not going to see the tiny leaves, but just know this guy grows in water, ponds in UBNA. Used to be way more common in the Puget Sound area when we had a lot more water in these parts and wetlands, because as you can see, this guy loves a good wetland. So if you want to see some Tule or bulrush, gotta get a little wet. Here we actually have an up close look at a piece of Tule. So this is what those big shrubs are actually comprised of individually. So on page 90 of our Pojar, we've got the red Osier Dogwood, which is this guy right here. it's got these veins coming up that come all the way up to the perimeter, but they don't come out straight. And you can think of that kind of like as these little dogs that are running in a dog park that don't want to leave outside of the dog park. You know, red osier dogwood. And we got the dog bit, so the next bit obviously is the red bit. So we can see this really bright red color in the stem. And this happens usually in the new growth or after a frost, so hence beginning of spring, these guys are new and fun. So for ethnobotany, the tribes, specifically the Quileute and Straight Salish, brewed a tonic tea from the bark, which is pretty dang cool. So here we got our Ponderosa Pine. I'm gonna take one of these guys off. This is a bundle. So you can see there's a lot of different bundles coming out of this branch. But how you know this is a Ponderosa Pine is because the needles are bundled in threes. So if we look down here, count the needles, 1, 2, 3, it's a pondy. These are super common on drier slopes. If you've ever been to eastern Washington, you'll see really huge Ponderosa pines that might be super old. They're a bit fire resistant as well, so good for the eastern Washington landscape. And if you can see deeper into what the bark looks like, it's a little dark on this guy, but actually as the trees get older, they have this orange puzzly bark. So this is a young tree, was planted here at UBNA recently. Most importantly though, Pinus ponderosa, that's an easy name to remember. Ponderosa pine has got these 3 guys coming out of this one point. Hey everybody, back. We're looking at a lodgepole pine tree here. So let's go in, take a closer look. So, as we can see some needle bundles around here. Let's take a bundle off. You can see there are 2 needles coming out of the bundling bit here, which is different from the lodgepole pine, or the Ponderosa pine, sorry, because they have 3. See, these needles are a bit smaller in size, and they've got a pretty pointy tip up here. If you feel it, it's pointy. And then, if we look a little closer at some of the cones, like this guy, ooh, these are super interesting cones because they are serotinous, which means the seeds come out only in a fire. So you would see a lot of new lodgepoles coming out if there was a fire in a recent area, because the cones would release the seeds. And these cones are 2 to 3 inches long, it looks like. So a little trick for you guys in terms of all of these pines we're learning. We're going to be learning lodgepole pine, ponderosa pine, and western white pine. So ABC order, that's the name of the game. So if we look at the first letter of each of these pines, we've got L for lodgepole, P for ponderosa, W for western white. And actually that's going to associate in numerical order. So lodgepole pine, L, has 2 needles coming out of that bunching bit. Ponderosa pine, P, comes after L, has 3 of those needles coming out of the little bunching bit. And then western white pine, which is W, end of the alphabet, has 5 needles coming out of that little bunching bit. So now you know, just count your needles, you got your pine. Use this is the Garry Oak tree. It's a little bit dead, but it's actually gonna hopefully sprout some new green leaves later in the spring. The brown ones actually don't fall off until the new green ones come out. And so how you can tell this is a Garry Oak or Quercus garryana is it has this kind of lobed shape to the leaf and all of these indentations, and that's going to be really specific for the plants we learn. Also specific for oaks in general, not just Garry Oak, are these 3 terminal buds that you can see coming out. So if you were to see maybe just a piece of a branch and you saw these 3 terminal buds, you'd be like, oh, that's an oak. And then if you follow the next steps and were to look more individually at these leaves and saw this lobed kind of look to them, you would be like, oh, that's a Garry Oak. So here's Garry Oak, the quirkiest garryana, because it's Quercus garryana, of them all. Thanks for joining today. Stay tuned to learn about some birdies from Liz, like these guys in here.